everyone. Welcome to another programming session. So in today's class or today's video or today's session, we're going to take a look at mainly uh, Java object-oriented programming. So using Java programming language, how we can make object-oriented programming language or object-oriented programming paradigm we're going to learn. So when we talk about object-oriented programming, basically object-oriented programming relates to the world around us. Very simply saying, it resembles the world around us. It imitates the world around us by means of objects and their interactions. For example, in the real world, you see real objects and they are interacting with each other. For example, if you take a TV and if you take a remote controller, the remote control object interacts with the TV objects via sending signals. If you take, for example, if you take an institute where a student getting registered for a course, so student is interacting with the institute, where in the institute uh, a staff member will be there, maybe the student administrator, he will be involving with that particular person. Then there are courses, student is enrolling to the courses, student is sitting for the exams. Likewise, these things can be made in software into objects, and we can make these objects work with each other in software. So today I will try to show you that part using practically using Java programming language as well. So object oriented programming paradigm we're going to learn very simply using the Java programming language. So that's the lesson it's going to be today. So without further delay, let's get started. If you take a particular programming paradigm, like for example, procedural programming has a style of working based on the problems. That means specifically it is depending on, first of all, expecting the user's inputs, right? Then it does some processing, then it does the output part. So input, process, output, input, process, output. This is the style the procedural programming or structured programming are working. The most of the pseudocodes that we worked, those were structured style, right? So last week only we started learning event-driven style. So when you compare the procedural paradigm with event-driven paradigm or style of programming, it is totally different. So where in the procedural programming, it has a start, then it has a body, then it has an end. Always it's like that: starting, doing the work, finishing the work, starting the work, doing the work, finishing the work. But when it comes to the event-driven style program, event-driven programs basically focus on events. There is no exact place to start and there is executing the code, then finishing. No, not like that. There will be basically, there will be a GUI program or an interface will be there. On that particular interface, what's going to happen is, on that interface, uh, the actions going to get triggered or events going to get triggered. Based on those actions or based on those events, it is going to execute the particular relevant code. So based on the events which are taking place in the interface, program is going to do the execution of the code. So a code, it's totally depending on the events. What are the events going to take place? It's going to respond. So that is another type of a paradigm. So it's totally different. So a little while ago I just demonstrated that GUI calculator program also. This one we just a little while ago we saw how it's functioning. So in this environment, once this is working, straight away I can close the application. We can directly close this application. That is one thing that I can do. I can maximize, I can restore, I can iconify, I can de-iconify, I can resize, okay? Or I can type the advance amount first, right? Let's say 8,500 hours worked, let's say 56 hours. Hourly rate, I can type, let's say 1,450.75. Then I can click cancel button if I like. I can click the calculate button next. I can do anything that I like, okay? So there is no particular order the program is going to follow. According to what is happening in the screen as events or actions, the program is responding back with the relevant code. That is what is happening. So that we need to understand in event-driven style or event-driven programming, that is how the program is going to function. Okay, right. So now we're going to come to the object-oriented programming style, right? So in my intro also I told you, so let me tell you what is object-oriented programming is. Basically, if you take a closer look, a look around yourself, right? I'm in my room now. In my room, of course, there's not only myself is there. There are a lot of objects around me, right? If you take, there are a lot of objects around me, like my phone is there in front of me, right? So there's my pair of spectacles there, right? Right, phone set, a lot of things are there. I can't access to everything, right? So I can pull everything, right? So my microphone is here, right? Right, then there are two monitors here, the webcam is here, there are two speakers there, my landline phone is there. So just like that, I behind there are some plants, there is a fairy light is there, there's a stool here, this one, right? So the idea is this. I In the real world, objects, like now not only myself, objects are interacting with each other. For example, now in order to do this online class, online session, I have set up a session, right? I'm interacting with these two screens, and my keyboard is there, right? My mouse is there, my microphone is there, my webcam is there. All these things need to work with each other. All these things need to work with each other. So how I am interacting with my computer, I'm switching on my computer, right? Then I am working on my monitor, right? Let's say if I want to make a call, then I am interacting with my phone. I'm interacting with my phone. Let's say I want to read something or I want to use some work, then I'm going to ac- go access this. Now I can access it, right? So of course I can see much better, right? It's a distraction, that's why I'm not using. So spectacle is an object, Nusrat is another object. The interaction is, where are the spectacles? So one object, another object, interaction is there. So it's all right. Once I finish this one, this is the case of that, right? Then the interaction is like this. We keep it inside, then we close that. That's an interaction, right? So spectacle, then the box or the case. I do something like closing, opening, right? Yeah, open, close. This is how it's happening. I hope you understand that, right? Right. So if you take a look at it, anything, right? So you don't need to be in front of your computer, right? Let's say you are in your living room, just take a look at it, right? What around, you might be sitting on your sofa, right? In front of you there'll be a TV, maybe you might be having the remote control. Above there might be a fan, or maybe side to that there'll be AC unit. There'll be stools. On the stool there will be maybe newspapers, okay, or magazines, right? Under the shelf you might have some books sometimes, right? You might be enjoying a cup of coffee, then the cup is on the top of the let's say the table. So it is they are full of objects. And in the real world, what we do is we interact with each other. These objects are interacting with each other. That is how this relationship is built, right? So without having these interactions, this system cannot work. The system cannot work. For example, if we take HND 53 as a batch, right? So we there are a lot of things are there, right? Students are there, course is there, course materials is there, syllabus is there, duration is there, then lecturers are there, then importantly the students are there. So if you take, now you are in the programming session. So if you are in the networking session, the student is there, networking lecturer is there. So you interact with them. Sometimes one lecturer need to interact with many students. So this is how it's happening, right? This is how it's happening. So in the real world, what you see is objects and their interactions. Objects and their interactions. So what we're going to do is in software we're going to imitate this one, or we're going to model this one. Of course, if you want to do it in software, basically you have to use an object-oriented programming language such as Java. Not only Java, there are other object-oriented programming languages also available like C++, even Python. You can use any of these object-oriented programming languages to do the work. So when we do that in software, what we do is we try to imitate, or we try to model as exactly or as much as possible how it is interacting in the real world. So for example, if you take in a for a course, a student will go and get register. So the course object will be there, student object will be there. There is an interaction called enrolling, right? Then let's say before enrolling for the course, there is a eligibility test. So there's a eligibility test is there. Student administrator will be there. Student administrator will be setting the test. Student will be sitting for the test. After the student getting enrolled with the course, let's say student is paying the fee. Student is submitting assignments. Teacher is or the lecturer is setting the assignment, or teacher is or lecturer is setting a test or exam. Student is sitting for the exam. This is why it's happening. Once you attempt an exam or do the exam, you get the marks or the grades. Likewise, this is how the things are functioning, right? So I hope you got a broad idea or the overall picture of what is going to be object oriented programming. Here I did not talk about any actions triggering or starting a program at a place and keep on continuing something. I did not talk about any of those things. I was talking about just like in the real world how things are happening. That's the only thing I was speaking to you. Okay. Right. So the key things that we're going to learn under object-oriented programming are going to be, one is we're going to learn what are objects, right? Number two, how to create objects. That is why we're going to learn about what are classes and how to create classes. So that is going to be our main lesson. So using that part, we can continue learning object-oriented programming with practical examples. So end of my class, the objective is you should be able to create object oriented style programs. So I'm planning to create an object oriented style calculator, so which will be a real useful thing. You can implement it in a command prompt style, or even you can implement it in a GUI style, but our program is going to be a object oriented paradigm we're going to follow, and we're going to get it created, right? So let's get started with the practical part. And if you take a look at the features of the object-oriented programming, the features, there are mainly four features are there. Number one is called abstraction. Abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. These are the four. What do you call features of object-oriented programming. So each feature we can practically learn also, and we can implement and see. It will take some time for us to do, but by the time I'm explaining, I'll try to cover most of these parts. Anyways, it is not in depth. We don't have to cover because this lesson unit, what we expect is just to create object-oriented programs. That paradigm you need to get introduced, and up to a certain level, if you can build a program, that is enough. If I'm going to do these things, it will take a lot of time, but anyways, I'll try to cover it up in a future class or in a future video, right? So we will see that. Don't worry, I can explain you this one, or else we will put extra session and we will do just like the one we did on last Thursday or previous Thursday, right? um so abstraction, if you take, abstraction is a step where you don't have to involve any writing code in it. Is not involving doing any coding, rather it is a step, or it's a way of thinking or way of collecting facts actually. So abstraction is that actually. These three things we can of course practically implement and see, right? Having said that, we will move on to the part once again, right? How to create an object, right? Okay. Before we create an object, if I ask you, what is an object? Okay, what is an object? Anybody having any idea? Basically, if you take an object consists of two things, right? You can say A self-contained software component which consists of two things, right? Um, they are actually data and methods. I'm going to come to this point, right? And objects always need not to be tangible. It need not be always tangible things, right? So it could be even a logical thing. For example, like tangible things, like for example, if you take a book, right? If you take a desk, right? If you take a phone, right? These are tangible things. You can look and feel, touch and feel these things. Uh, Less tangible things, or it can be a bank account, right? Bank account doesn't have a color, width, height, density. It doesn't have things like that, right? But a screen icon, if you see a screen icon, then those things also can be taken as objects, right? Because if you take any of these things, if you take a book, if you take a desk, if you take a bank account, or if you take a screen icon, all of them have one thing in common. All of them have something called data and methods. Okay, data and methods. So we need to see what do you mean by data, and then we need to see what do you mean by methods, right? So if you take, for example, if you take a book, right? Then it's easy if you take what do you call the example. If you take a book, basically the data will tell what the object is, which means um, it will basically tell you the characteristics of the object. Now, if you take a book, what are the characteristics of a book? It will say the title, the author, the year of publication, who published the book, what was the price, the image on the cover, number of pages. Likewise, you can keep ISBN number. These kind of things are this data the book, about the book. Then the other part is methods. I will explain this one again. What are data and what are methods? I will give you notes. I will type it. Methods, in the other sense, what you can do with the object. If you take the book object, what you can do with the book object, you can open the book, you can close the book, you can read the book. Those are the main important things that you can do, right? Um, apart from those two main things, you can put a cover for that. You can carry the book, right? You can tear pages out of that. So old books and all, sometimes we do that, tear pages out of that. We can do a lot of things with the book. If we take another object, right? So if we take an object, like let's me take a thing that I am having with me. Let's say these spectacles, right? So data is, right, it'll say it's a, what do you call it, like people have short sight and long sight, so it is what type of a lens this is, or what type of a glasses are these things, whether it is made out of real glass or whether it is made out of plastic. This is actually made out of, this is not that heavy, so I think this is done in plastic. The frame is there, it has a metal frame, the color of the frame is black, right? And then that has a particular standard design to this, right? So that is what the idea, or that is the characteristics, or the data about the object. Then if you take about what you can do with this one, basically you can wear the glass, right? Using this one, you can clearly read something, right? If you want to read something, you can clearly do that one, right? So you can remove the glass, wear it, remove it. Two things that you can do it, right? You can fold it, you can unfold it. Important things about the object I'm speaking, right? Fold it, unfold it, wear it, unwear it. Okay, then you can keep it in the box. And one more thing you can do, usually you'd have seen glasses, you can clean them, right? Enough playing with my glasses, right? Okay. So next, what we can do is, mm, so we need to put the definition for what are data and what are methods. Then we take one or two examples. We will list down the data and methods with that. Then we can start doing this part in the Java programming language itself. So data means uh, data defines the characteristics of the object. Okay, tells what the object is, right? So that is about this one, data. Then when it comes to methods, what you can do with the object, or what the object can do, is basically known as the methods or behaviors of the object, right? um, so methods define behaviors of the object. Define defines defines the behaviors of the object, tells what the object can do, right? So that is the basic idea about uh, what is an object. We know it's an object. It's a self-contained software component which consists of two things. Basically, why we say it's a software component, because these objects, we're going to build them in software. We are not going to really work with the physical objects. That's what we have in the real world. So we are going to do it in the software. So that is why we say it's a software component. So if it's a software book, or if it's a software something, right, a student, it will have these two, basically two things. One is data, the other one is methods, right? And objects have objects definitely objects objects have a unique identity. Okay, so what the idea about that is unique identity, which means if you take any object, it can be uniquely identified. For example, if you take this particular glasses which I'm having, this is only one object is there in the entire thing, entire world. If you take this particular glass is one. For example, it's in, let's say it's in Sri Lanka, it's in our let's say now I'm in Mavanella, let's say in Nuzutsa's house, Nuzutsa's, let's say, office room, right, at Nuzutsa's right hand. Like for example, if you want to specifically refer to that object, that you can give, I can't give a number or something for this, right? So if you take a phone, that's my phone, right? So if you take this particular phone, what will happen is a phone has something called IMEI number, right? IMEI number, you say. Unique identities there for any phone that they are manufacturing. There'll be a unique identity will be there. So that we need to understand. So every object can be uniquely identified. Okay, uniquely identified. So for that reason, I'll just tell you here, if you have this GUI program again, because children, when I click this calculate button, after doing the calculation, I want to display the net wage. Okay, I want to display the net wage. So this txt, this is txt net wage. The name of that component is, yes, txt net wage. So txt net wage is the object's identity, object's name. The name of the text field is txt identity. So therefore, by writing code in, I can directly refer to this object, because I have another altogether 7 text fields are there in this program. But when I want to display the net wage, I'm displaying using this place. What is that? I'm displaying using the unique name txt net wage is the name I'm referring. So txt net wage is only once it's occurring inside this program, and it is specifically referring to this particular text field, so it will properly get displayed here. So if you take your HND 53 badge, uh, all of you have something called a registration number, KIT, something will come. So that is used to uniquely identify yourself. As a Sri Lankan citizen, if you want to uniquely get yourself identified, if you have a you have basically a birth certificate number, you have, that's a unique one. Apart from that, you will have something like what do you say, the national identity card number. If you have a passport globally, that is a unique number. So they are very unique numbers. So there is a unique way of identifying yourself or the object. So that is what we are saying. Even if we have hundreds and thousands of objects, each object can be uniquely identified, and it should be identified, otherwise no use. That is why objects have a unique identity, right? Then they are self-contained components, and they consist of two things. They are data and methods. Then I told you objects need not to be always referring to tangible things like physical things. They can be less tangible things like screen icons, bank account. Because if you take a bank account, data about a bank account will be what bank you have in the account, what is the type of account, savings account, a fixed like a current account or savings account, or child account. There are different types of accounts available according to the banks. So type of bank account, account number, account holders contact number, account holders permanent address, bank balance. That's the most important thing. What type of transactions or what type of actions are permitted with that particular bank account? For example, you can do like withdrawals. Of course, you can do withdrawals, deposits. If you have online banking facility, you can do fund transfers, bill payments, um, phone bill, phone reloads. You can do a lot of things with your bank account. Let's assume it's a minor account. Minor account means children's account. Till the age of 18 completes, this the account holder or the guardians of them can interact with the account by, mainly you can do the depositing part. Withdrawing is not available till you turn up 18 years, right? So that's how the data about the things. And what sort of things that you can do with the bank account? As I told you, you can withdraw, we can deposit, we can check bank balance, you can print bank statement, you can transfer cash. All those kind of things you can do with a bank account. That is, but a bank account, what color, what size, what height, what width, what is the alignment, that doesn't get applied because it's not a tangible thing. You can't touch and feel that. Same thing if you go for a screen icon, it will have a picture, right? So what is the weight of a screen icon? Now, for example, there's a recycle bin is there. The recycle bin will be full. Sometimes the recycle bin will be uh, empty. So if we have recycle bin is full, is does that mean the recycle bin is heavy? No, right? So it's just a state. So it's a logical type of an object, right? That's what it says. Then when it comes to the two things, what do you mean by data and methods? Data are mentioning or data are telling what the object is actually, what the object is. And method says what the object can do. What the object is means data means the characteristics basically. So what material it is made out of, what color, what size, what height, what weight. I'm not speaking about a specific object. You imagine any object. So go for the relevant ones, the data, most important one, right? Let's take a patient in a hospital. Important data about a patient will be patient number, ward number, right? Gender, height, weight, blood group, important things will be there, right? And you will have this diagnosis reports and all the things related to the patient. Things that the patient can do or can be done, right? Let's say get admitted, get discharged, get medical treatment, consult doctor, right? Go for scans, things like that. So it's related to the uh, person who is in the hospital. If you take a person, a member in a gym or in a fitness center, you have similar type of data, but certain things which are relevant to a patient is not relevant to a uh, fitness center member. For example, blood group is not important. Height, weight will be important equally. Blood group doesn't. Um, it, it's not very important. So maybe your gender is also not very important. If it is everybody's gym, so male, female, everybody can go, means doesn't matter, right? So your age is also not going to be a problem to joining to a gym, right? So there are things like that. Okay, right. So that is basically about the object-oriented programming in a brief introduction to that part. This is the theory part that we discussed. Now we will see how we can practically do the things. Okay, practically do the things. So I'm going to first of all teach you how to create objects, right? So I better have these things saved for you. Okay, right. Let's have a small discussion once more, right? Since this is saved, right? So I'm going to have a new one, right? So now I told you what is an object is. Object consists of two things, data and methods, right? So data tells what the object is, method tells what the object can do. Now, how to create objects? So if you want to create an object, or if you want to create how to create objects, right? So in order to create objects, you need to have something called a class, right? You need to have a thing called a class, right? Right. So without further delay, quickly I'll explain you what is a class is, and we will take some examples, right? A class is the definition of the object, or it describes the object, right? A class is a definition of the object. It contains all the necessary data and methods. Then if you take an object is an instance. Instance means example. Instance of a class. And an instance of a class, right? For example, if we take this spectacle, what you see here, the glasses that I'm using. So this is the example. This is one object that you see, right? This is a real object that you see. So in order to how this was manufactured is what we are talking, right? So in order to get this thing manufactured, there is a way how we to have to manufacture this. Because this is a physical object. So how we going to manufacture means, now if I take something else, right? So I can take a pen or something, right? If I take a, I don't have access to a pen now at the moment. So, but if you take a pen or something, let's say this phone, right? This is a Redmi Note 9 Pro, right? So 6 GB 128 is the capacity. So why I'm saying that one is that the Redmi company or Xiaomi company has decided for this particular model, this is what I have in my hand is just one object, one phone. You don't say this is the only phone in the world. No, there are thousands of and hundreds and thousands of phones. The same model phone will be there, but what I have in my hand, it has a one object, one example. If you take another 6 GB 128 Redmi phone, Note 9 Pro, it will have the same features, same functions, same qualities that this phone is having. Is that understood? So in order to create this one, the company uses a common thing. That means it uses it manufactures, the company manufactures. So the company decides what type of a battery should go here, what type of a camera should be going here, what type of a processor we have to put here, how much of a RAM we have to put there, what type of a glass we have to put in the front, what type of a glass we have to put in the back, or the what do you call the cover that we have to use, what type of the charging port is, whether there's usual USB port is going to be a C type USB port, or any ports going to come here. If things are coming there, what are the things, and what going to come here, the volume rockers and all, everything the company will decide. The manufacturer will decide that one. So how the object is going to be totally defined by the manufacturer, right? So that is why say we say if you want to get an object created, or if you want to get an object done, or you want an object, you definitely need a class, you need a manufacturer, you need a factory in order to create the classes, or sorry, in order to create the objects. So when we are working with the Java programs, we are from the beginning we are creating classes. So you are correct, because Java is by inherently it is object oriented. That is why we were creating classes, and we were creating an object of that one in we are running when we are using the main method. So today we're going to actually create a class. From that one we can create a custom class, and we can create an object, and that object will do some work for us actually. So we're going to create something useful, or we're going to follow the same theory, and we're going to do that one. So if I go through this one once again, a class is a definition of object, what the object is, what color, what size, what price, what weight, everything, every feature you're going to describe it to that. It contains all necessary data and methods. So what this can do and what this cannot do, everything will be defined in the object, right? So in the class, what method should be going there, and what methods should not go there. Right. So and an object is an instance of a class. That is just one example, one object, right? So for example, if we take a car object, if we take a car object, sorry, if we take a car class, right? From the car class, now in the real world you see lots and lots of cars, right? So for example, let's say you have a Toyota Vitz. So without spelling, you have a Toyota Vitz, right? In Vitz itself, different years, different makes will be there. This is one example of a car you will see, right? Let's say you have a Toyota Hiace, right? Then let's say you have a Mazda M3, right? Toyota Corolla. Likewise, you can have examples. If you take, if this is a class, and all these things are getting created, these objects are getting created from a class called car. So if you take a car, basically has the common features, like it will have number of passengers, right? uh, Driving side, whether it is left side driver or right side driver, right? Then ignition type, automatic, manual transmission, these types of them, fuel type, right? All these things are common for all the vehicles, right? So if you take common things are there for every car object, right? So like you'll say fuel type, right? Fuel type you'll have, right? Transmission, right? So number of passengers, don't know whether it's correct. All these things will be common to all the objects that you make here, and all the cars will have common features, common things that you can do. You can accelerate a car, you can brake a car, you can take a turn, you can reverse, you can repair, you can repaint, a lot of things you can do. What you can do with the basically a car is you can make the car go, and you can make the car stop. Basically those are the main important things that you can do. All these things will be found in all the objects that you make here, and they are made out of this particular car class itself, right? So we can build something similar to this one, and we can see, right? So I hope you got an idea about what is an object is, right? If you want to create objects, definitely we need to have the factory or the manufacturer. Without having a manufacturer, you can't manufacture the products. So therefore we need a manufacturer. So the manufacturer will define what the object is going to be and how the object is going to be. So basically, if you take an object, it has of two things. Apart from the identity, it has two things: data and methods. Data define what the object is, methods define what the object can do. So by putting this data and methods together in a class and using that one, we can create our objects, right? We can create our objects. So I'm going to prove this theory using the Java coding, and I will create a small program and show you how it is functioning. And once you practice that one, we're good to go, right? Okay, without further delay, let's get started with this one. I'm going to create a program, right clicking on the default package here, right, new Java class. I'm going to call this one as a calculator. You can see in the last video we learned about how to create how to create methods. Last lesson we learned about that also. or previously. There's a separate video on that. You can watch that, right? Calculator, just call that one as calculator, right? Right, fine. So this is my manufacturer. Before this one, if I had said that one, it would have not meant much to you. Now today you know the theory about that. So this is the class. So you are creating, um, hereafter you're going to create objects from this class calculator. We have already used objects from predefined classes. For example, the scanner class we have already used. Scanner class we used. Last week we used some GUI components which were already built by someone else. From the Java developers, they have built that, right? Okay, that program is not here. That is here, I guess. Sorry about the delay. That's this is the program. If you take a button is there in your palette. They have created this one for you. What you simply do is you just drag and drop that from here to your screen, right? So then what you do is you change the properties. Properties means data. All these properties are customizable. See, all these properties are given. Lots and lots of properties here about that object. So this, now from a class you can create thousands and thousands of objects. So because this is a button class is already there, there is a mechanism of taking it. So you can take hundreds and thousands of buttons if that is what you need in your program. In this program, I just wanted two buttons. I just took them. So if I don't want further buttons, I can erase them. If I want a comma box, I can do that, right? I can put a drop down list box anytime I like, and I can start coding this, no worries. So this comes from a comma box class. It's been created. How to do the work, everything is made there. So I'm just using them predefined classes, right? So everything you don't have to create. Now the program that I'm building now is going to be a small program in order to teach you the object-oriented theory, because uh, we need to have an idea how to create a class, from that how to create an object, because we are doing this one again keeping in mind that we're going to do something for the assignment as well. That's another reason. Okay, right. So as usual, I'm not going to directly type the main method here. I'm not going to do the main method first, right? So in this one, I'm going to create some information here, right? So let's say um, private string, let's say brand is equals, I'll give a brand name for that. Okay, private string brand. Let's call this one as, you'd have heard about different types of names. So for the sake of publishing this on YouTube, I'm not going to say any brand names. So you know there are a lot of calculator brands, right? So we're going to call this one as NFZ, right? So just that's the name that I'm using usually. Let's say this is the NFSZ brand. Okay, right. So that is V2. That is the calculator brand, for example, right? So just we have given that one. So here you are, we find the data. So I'm adding the data about the, this one, what do you call, about the my calculator, right? So if I want, I can put private float price. This is not necessary. Let's say this is in dollars, right? So let's say $14.25, right? Just two things. These are just defining some data, right, inside this one. Why I chose private, I'll show you in a while, right? These are access modifiers, by the way. Then, so first we have to define the data, because when you create an object, okay, students, when we create an object, in the object, what we have is data and methods. We have the data and methods. So first we have to put the data and methods in the object, sorry, in the class, then only it will be available in the objects that we're going to create. So that's the reason I added it there. So, in a calculator, what we can do basically is we can add numbers, right? We can add numbers, multiply values, we can subtract values. So I'm going to keep this one very simple. I'm going to put just two methods in the calculator that I am building, right? So I'm going to say public, okay, public int get uh, get added to numbers. So I could have just said get total. Let's say get total two numbers. It dot, right. So we'll say int n1 comma int n2. This is not new to you. This is just an ordinary method I'm building. Then this method is designed to return an integer. So I have to use the return statement and get rid of this error. Till that it will signal an error because the return statement is missing. We will say int dot is assigned, n1 is added with n2. Then we say return dot. Now the array is also gone. Because this calculator, we're going to use it in another program. So I'm not going to use just the system.out.println, and I'm not going to print it. It's not going to be useful for me. Always I'm not going to print this one. If I give my two numbers to this calculator, it will add them together and it will give me the result back, so I can use it in my program. So that is how I have designed it. Right, let's say you want to find the cube value of a number. You want to find the cube value of a number. Cube value means what? You need to multiply that number 3 times by the same number, right? So let's find another method like public int get cube of. So I'm going to write a method like get cube of. So I'm going to define a method. So int n, that's a number. So what you're going to do is int cube is assign the value n multiplied by n multiplied by n, right? So we have found that one, the cube value. Just we can return the cube value. So there are two methods that I have built. Okay, just I have built two methods in that. And one more thing I'll type public void show info. Show info. Okay, we'll say show info. There's a method called show info. What I'm going to do is I'm going to display what is the brand and what's the price of that calculator, right? So it's just a testing method. Okay, brand. So it's a brand. Okay, so if you take a look at from the top, public class calculator, nothing new to us. Public class calculator, you have to write the keyword class, then you have to use the name of the program, which is calculator. So public I have used. You can use either public or you can use nothing here, that is default. Only public or nothing you can use. Public or default are the only access modifiers you can use for classes, right? So program starts here, program finishes here. A class is the blueprint of the object. Blueprint means that's like the mold. From that one you can create similar type of objects, instances you can create. So what object's going to come here? It's going to be like this. So an object has two things, data and methods. So we are defining what data should be there in our object and what our object can do. Our object actually, my calculate object I built, it can find the total of two numbers. It can find the cube value of a number if we give, as well as it can show the details of itself. That is what we have built here. So I'm not going to build anything else here, or I'm not going to put any main method in this program. So I'm not going to execute this program. I'm going to show you how you can use this in another program and get the work done actually. And even we can use this one in a GUI program, and I will show you how to access it and show you. Right. So a calculator can be used by an accountant. It could be used by a student. It could be used by a teacher, or even it could be used by a shop owner. It could be used by any person who wants to get things done. So for that reason, I will build another program. Carefully watch this. This calculator program is inside. Calculator program is inside. You can see here it is in HND53 programming source packages default package. It's inside the default package. Inside the same default package, I'm creating another program. Right clicking like this, say new. Then I'm going to choose Java class. I will call this one as accountant, or you can call this one as a teacher. Let's call this one as a teacher class. Okay. So from that teacher class, so this is just a teacher class, right? So I just want the teacher to use the calculator. So I will add the main method here. I can add the main method here so that I can make the teach object use the calculator object, right? So when you want to use the calculator object, first of all, you have to create an object, right? Before you use the uh, features in the calculator, you have to first create an object. So create an object from calculator uh, class. How you do that is very simple. Have you seen we have done from a predefined one? You know this one. We do this all the time. We do that, and here we give it like this. Then it will result in an error. Then we import the class. We have done this because java.util.scanner class. This is a pre-built class by the Java developers. We are making use of that one here. Eh, by the way, how we are using that one is we are creating an object. Object name is scan. This is has to be unique. That is what I'm saying, unique identity. This is the identity we are talking about. So there can't be another object inside the same program called scan. So because it's already defined, see, that's wrong. Variable scan is already defined in method main, so can't use that. You have to use unique IDs. So you want to, yeah, go ahead and create like this. So the each scanner object is having a unique ID, right? So we don't need that. Actually, we don't need that. How we need is actually we don't need the scanner class either. We're going to use our own class that we created now. Both are inside the same folder. We say that is in the default package. If something is inside the same folder, we say that is inside the default package, right? Nice. Now we will create the object. So in order to create the object, first you give the name of the class. Class, sorry, calculator is the name of the class. Then we'll say cal1 is assign the value new. Use new is the keyword to create new objects. Okay, new is the keyword to create objects. Later I'll teach you how to use the constructor methods and all. New, again you have to call calculator, right? So this will produce you an object. Now your object is ready. I told you object is a collection of data and methods, so we can make things work from this one. I have properly built it. So you can say object name like scan.next int, scan.next float, scan.next line. We can say cal1 dot. That's a program that we built. You can see the bold letters. There are three methods highlighted because those are the methods that we built, right? If you say uh, get total of two numbers, we will give two numbers and see 450 comma 780. Now this is going to do the work and it's going to return the value. So once it returns the value, either you have to put it in a variable. Let's put it in a variable, capture it, then you can display the value in your program. So this is the object. Calculator object performs adding the numbers together operation for you and returning the value for you. So 100 times if you want, you can use that one, no problem. So when I execute this program, this is a fully object-oriented program that we have built. We have created our object using the our class calculator, and we created our teacher class where we put a main method there, and we created an object from calculator called cal1 using the new keyword we call the constructor method. That is the way to create an object. You already know with the scanner class how to do this. Then we called a method which is associated in that object, right? This is just one method that I called. I can call another method. There are other methods. For example, int x, I can't use x. I use int y is assigned the value cal1 dot get cube. Get cube of, if you give a number, let's say 3, that will, that is the value is 27. Let's say cube value of, right? So if you run that one, so cube value of 3 is 27. Who does that calculation? Your calculator class does that object. The uh, what do you call, calculating the cube value and everything has been implemented here, not here. Okay, right. Now what we can do is we have one more thing, right? You can see cal1 dot show info. We can just see the details about the calculator also. If you run, it says brand and the price it's displaying. So you can get things done like that also, right? Okay, so that is about the calculator class and how to create an object and how to get it work. I hope you understood this part. This covers the basic part of how to create objects. Now, if you want to do this one in a GUI program, that is also possible. I'll just show you very quickly how to do that without wasting too much of time. I'm creating a JFrame form, then test OOP in GUI, right? So event driven style and object oriented we are mixing here. Actually the interface is only what we are building, and interface is functioning in event driven style. Actually the programming logics, everything we have built in object oriented style. So in order to make this one a little bit more sensible for you, I'll add a button here first, and I'll add three. I have two text fields. Let me have three text fields actually. Let's call the first one as txt1, second one txt2, last one I'm going to call txt3, button I'll call btn. Okay, let's change the font for everybody. So we have a big text, right? So let's change this one. Okay, and we will play this thing. It's easy. Okay, right. So that's all. I'm going to do any labels here. So I'm going to put two numbers. Click the button. Use the calculator class. I'm going to do the calculation, and I'm going to display the answer here. So double clicking that, right? So I'm here. Watch this. So here calculator cal1 is equal. You can use cal also. Object is created now. I can get the work down. Now I need int n1 comma n2 or a comma b. I'll take. So a is assigned the value txt1 dot get text. You know this is not possible directly, so we need to convert that into integer. So integer dot pass int. Then for b, txt2 dot get text. So a and b are there. There's a spelling mistake here. Now you can find the total of those two numbers if you like. So how we can do that is we're going to say, um, if you like, you can take x is assigned cal1 dot get two numbers or get total of two numbers a comma b, right? Then you can display that. That's an error message is coming. X is not public, right? Txt 3 dot set text string dot value of x, right? Now you know here we are just taking the input from the text field and we are converting that and putting into the variables. That's all we are doing. No logical things that we are doing. That means the operations and all we are not doing inside this program. We are simply calling the calculator object to perform the calculation for us and give us back the result, and we are simply displaying. So our this program is working like an interface. That's correctly, it's working as a GUI interface, graphical user interface. Program is actually happening under the GUI program, right? So sorry, under the calculator part. So if you run this program, I need to put a set size also, children. So let's try that one before we do that. Okay, So let's type some numbers 45 and 3 here. Let's click OK. Then the answer 48 is getting displayed there. The object oriented way we are doing it, calculator class is accessed and the operation is done there, and it is showing the answer back here, right? Okay, right. So we can try another one, right? We'll put another button, right? So we'll put this OK button. We'll change this one, get total. We'll call this one as get cube. Let's say btn cube, btn total, right? If you open that, right? So because I copied and pasted, that's why cube I'm going to find. Int cube is assign the value. Uh, so I need to create the calculate object. If you don't want to create again and again, you can do that. You can cut this code, go to the top of the program. Before this one, we have already done that in menu programming. So you can just create that one. Use private like that. So here you can use int cube is assign the value cal1 dot get cube of, we have to give a number there. Directly we can give a number, right? So we'll say int n is assigned the value txt 1 dot get text. Directly we can't do that. We say integer dot pass int, that is text value are converting to integer. Here we can pass n, so it will find the cube value of n. We don't know what the number you type, it will find it for you, and we can display the answer in txt3 dot set text. Let's try this and see. Shift F6. So here we'll type a number, something like 3, 27 should come, properly coming. Let's type a large number and see. So it's a big number is coming. Hope you understand that clearly, right? Okay, let's do a small practicing part. Okay, one more thing I'll just quickly tell you before we finish the session. You know, when we are creating an object from here, when you are creating an object from the calculator class, we are calling a method here. You say new, and the method looks like same as the name of the class with opening closing parenthesis. So this is a constructor method. We call this one as the constructor method. By the time an object is getting created in the memory, it is getting, this part is getting created. I think we will have to do another separate lesson on this one to teach you what are instance variables, what are class variables, and features of object-oriented programming. I think another session is necessary. We will do that one as well, the extension part of that. But for the today's, before we wind up, let's take an understanding of what is the constructor method. So when you say constructor method, if you go here, I can create my own constructor method. Now inside this one, I haven't done that because I haven't done the constructor method. Now, if you take a look at this program, the computer has automatically provided a constructor method here. Can you see this? This method test OOP in OOP in GUI. This constructor method has already been created for this class. Java already created that one, right? But in our program, we don't have that. In our program, we don't have that, right? So where did that constructor method then came? We didn't code this, but when you do not have a constructor method created inside a Java program, Java automatically provides a default constructor. Default constructor means without any arguments or parameters, a constructor is constructed like this, just given like this, right? If you like to do anything other than just creating the object, maybe you like to standardize these things, you want to put some values in these variables, you can do the program like this. Public name of the class is what, how you create the constructor method, calculator, and you can see it is taking no parameters there. right? By the time you're creating the object, if you want to mention something here, you can make it like, um, right? So I am creating this constructor to have two parameters accepted. One is a string value, the other is a float value. Because I wrote a constructor method inside the calculator class, there are no errors in the calculator class. You can see there are no errors here. But if you go to the teacher program, it gives an error here for the constructor method. What does it say? It says constructor calculator in class calculator cannot be applied to given types. So required string and float arguments are missing, it says. So in here also the same problem coming. So what you need to do is you need to fix that. So by the time you are creating a constructor, you need to send a parameter here. Let's say n, that's the brand. Let's say price, let's put like $15, right? When you supply that, the array is gone now. Array is gone now. But the parameters that are coming here, we are not using them. So what we shall do is we can assign those values to these instance variables. Like why I call that an instance variables, I'll come to that. Brand is equals to NA and price is equals to P. So that's done. Okay. So this is the values that we are giving, it is initializing. So if I run the program now, it displays cube value, all the things, brand name n, price 15, right? Earlier it was displaying something else. Okay. Here also, when you are creating the object, you need to pass something. Let's type ABC, brand name is ABC. And here we can type a price like, let's say $100. So actually we are not using that one anywhere. In the GUI program, we are not using the price and other things. Only we are performing calculations. Okay, right. Hope you understand that, right? That is the constructor method. So if you provide a constructor method is the very first method is called when you create an object. When you create an object, okay. Let me tell you what happens that also. When you do that code, when you create the constructor method, children, here, when you call this one calculator cal1 equals new keyword you are calling in calculator, computer will create an object in the memory. It will reserve, if this is white color area is the memory, it reserves the memory for that object, right? This object consists of data and methods. What are the two data it has? It has the brand and it has the price. So those things will be defined here. Brand and price will be defined here. Okay, this is one object that we have created. We can create another object, right? We can create two objects, cal1, cal2. Let's call this one is cal1 and this is cal2, right? So the brand here can be NFSZ, price let's say $25. Here we can create ABC, price let's say $15. So this is one object, this is another object, right? So these are variables, right, which are getting created inside the object. This data and methods are part of the object. Methods I didn't write here. Data and methods are part of the object. So brand and price are part of the object itself. If you take the brand variable here and brand variable here, or the data item, or the this is called an instance variable. Instance means the object or the example. Instance, this is with this instance, this is having a value. With another instance, it can have a different value. That is why these are called instance variables. And further, every object that you create, if you create 100 objects from the calculator class, every object will have brand and price that can have its own values inside that. That is the beauty of that. That is why we call this part as what do you call this um, these are called uh, instance variables, right? Define the data, they are instance variable. Opposite of this one is class variable, that we will see separately. But private string brand we have given. So this is a instance variable. So actually there is no need for this assigning a value here. I can just put like this. This is not necessary actually now. It's properly done the code, and we are doing it very neatly. Apart from that, mm, see, one more thing you can't do. Let's say an object consists of data and methods. That doesn't mean you can't access the data, because data are private. That is actually coming in encapsulation. I just want to touch that one. Let's say you want to change the brand name. Brand equals, let's say, KKK. So this is a brand. So now you can see it's giving an error message. It will say in variable brand has private access. See, brand has private access in calculator, which means when you define a variable when you define this instance variable, as much as possible you make the data private in order to protect that one. Otherwise malicious codes can be written, hacking can be happening. So in order to protect your program, we are making use of this kind of a uh, mechanism, right? So if you do not have the private, and if you just define them outside your methods inside your program, now you can see this is possible. You can change that. So second time when you call the show info, it will give you the value that I changed here earlier. Actually the name is NNN, now it has changed to KKK. So that's possible because I am letting it happen, right? So it's a mistake that we are doing. So make sure your data are defined as private in the program, like this. Then only that accessing is disabled. That is properly you are bringing security. Only data should be accessed by methods. Through the methods, you can make it work. For example, if you want to change the brand, you can have a method like public void set brand name, and you can give string um, name, right? So you can, sorry, you will say brand equals name. So using this method, you can change it. So in here, if you like to do that, you say cal1 dot set name, or uh, set brand name. You can give a new name, like let's say QQQ. So when you run this, brand name is properly getting changed, and this is a legal way of doing without affecting the code directly. So that those are the things that we discussed today. Okay, so this is with the constructor method we are doing it, and earlier we did it without the constructor method. Okay, so this is anyways recorded in the video, so you can look at the last part of the video and get it done, right? Let's finish the class officially then, right? Okay. Okay, then that's all for this particular episode. In this particular video lesson, that's what you get. The object-oriented programming is what we mainly focused. So those who need the information, you can go back to the video and watch it from the beginning, or the places that you want to see. You can watch them, right? Okay, so I'm going to conclude this session today. So as usual, see you in the next video. Till then, bye.